Hey folks, it's Patriot Nurse. In today's segment, we're going to discuss war, famine, and disease. No matter how much progress the left may think we've made or that we're going to make in their brave new world that looks like Star Trek Next Generation and Gene Roddenberry, where poverty has been abolished and no one uses money anymore, and there are treatments aplenty for whatever disease there may be. These three things are always going to be present. They have been present in eternity past, and they're going to be present as long as human beings inhabit the planet Earth. War, famine, and disease. One usually begets the other two in this equation, and there are examples replete throughout modern and ancient human history, both. To use an example here of war specifically, war happens for many different reasons. War can happen for border defense and integrity issues. War can happen for territorial expansion issues. War can happen for economic reasons, secondary to tariffs, or for instance, human waves moving back and forth. Throughout history, economic issues have been one of the many reasons why wars have started, but not the only one. When we look at war and its effects and its aftermath, disease and famine are usually right in there. One particular configuration can be that the war actually causes a famine. For instance, in the war between the states, because of the devastation of Sherman's armies across the South, much of the Southern infrastructure that allowed the South to produce agricultural food-based, products was decimated, was absolutely wiped out in certain areas. And when you have the food and the nutrition production of a country, of a region that has been crippled or altogether destroyed, the lack of calories and also the lack of quality nutrition can in many cases swiftly bring about outbreaks and diseases. For instance, in the United States, the worst outbreaks of measles that we had were in the late 1850s and also in the 1860s. But we also had serious problems with typhoid, where many people were killed, and also with yellow fever, which is, I'll get to that here in a minute. But what you do see is that with war comes not only destruction of food production capacity, but also comes the aggregation of human populations. And when human populations that are not previously connected start to be pushed together and are forced to essentially share the same space, you start to get rapid transit of diseases. For those of you who raise chickens or livestock, you know that if you bring an animal in from another herd, you have to isolate that animal prior to the introduction into your own herd so as not to transmit diseases back and forth. During the war between the states, the Union Army essentially pressed into service a great number of immigrants straight off the boat in the major ports of the North, and essentially grabbed them, put a uniform on them, and shipped them down south. And I think that it's very interesting to see that when we are looking at these outbreaks of communicable diseases between human beings, like for instance, respiratory-borne diseases, that a lot of these diseases during the war between the states were spread at the same time that a lot of these new and unscreened immigrant populations that had been pressed into service by the Union Army made their way south and into the southern states. And around about that time, of course, if you've ever seen Gone with the Wind, you know that Scarlett's mother dies from typhoid, and that was very, very common during the war between the states because all these different people are coming together, not only, from invading armies, but also people getting together in encampments from all across different parts of the local territories and also expanded territories. You see this universally. This isn't just here in the United States. This is everywhere. Everywhere. In fact, Napoleon's army, for instance, when Napoleon's army was moving across Europe, approximately, it's either 40,000 or 400,000. There's fours and zeros in there. A whole bunch of them died from typhus. And typhus is spread by body lice. It's a disease spread by body lice. So it's interesting because you have this disease that was spread because of A, human beings getting in close proximity to each other, B, having poor hygiene, poor sanitation, which is secondary to infrastructure breakdown, which I'll get into here in just a minute. But then also you have the vectors that come into the mix whenever they have lots of hosts that they can bite and spread disease in between. So another thing that tends to happen as a consequence of war spreading disease, not just with human populations in their natural aggregation and the spread back and forth of disease when they get together, but also you start to see that war, and definitely in modern times, whenever war happens, the infrastructure, especially the water sanitation, wastewater management, and also, of course, electricity as well. When wars and invading armies and also just straight out riots, breakdown and rule of law, when this happens, quite often the grid, well, in the form of electricity, will be compromised, and then also sanitation, wastewater treatment, and clean water delivery are also compromised. And as a result of that, you start to see not just the respiratory-borne diseases and the communicable diseases that naturally occur with human beings getting spread. You also start to see that these food-borne diseases and these digestive fecal-oral diseases start to get spread as a direct result of the breakdown of the sanitation structures secondary to war, violence, rioting, things like that. And this is, again, this is throughout the span of human history, all these three things have been present, every single one of them. And they're not going away anytime soon. Despite, whatever euphemistic Gene Roddenberry style vision that the left has, it's not going to go away. And if anything, I think that we are poised within the next 20 to 30 years for certain to see a few things. Number one, we are statistically long overdue for a pandemic. If you've been paying any attention to the news coming out about these superbugs, our conventional antibiotic therapy is not as effective as, of course, it once was. But also the rate of growth of these superbugs is starting to seriously outpace pharmaceutical companies' ability to create drugs to deal with these new superbugs. So there's going to be a correction, all right? We're primarily seeing this in the STDs. And if you look, we've got super gonorrhea, super chlamydia, HIV, syphilis is now multi-drug resistant, and also tuberculosis, which is not an STD. But especially a certain type of tuberculosis that's multi-drug resistant is heavily present in the HIV positive population. So we're starting to see overall that our ability to get control of these bugs is being compromised at a rate that has not been seen since really the introduction of penicillin. The good old glory days of pharmaceutical intervention into bacterial-borne diseases are gone. And it will just, I think, be a matter of time until we start to see that day of reckoning here on us pretty soon. But this is one of the things that you can look for throughout the span of human history. If you see one of them, go ahead and be predictive in your preparation for the other two. It's going to happen. It's just how bad and how long are you going to have to wait? I could, go on for days and days giving you an example of this, but I challenge you, look back, and I'd love to hear your answers in the comment sections. Look back upon the past 15, 20, heck, your entire adult life. Look back on your life and apply these three things, the war, famine, and disease. Look at this throughout the span of the history that you have witnessed in your lifetime and also in current events. Look for them. Look for the pattern. They're there. One usually begets the other two. And they're always going to be present. So if we're planning and we're preparing like most of us are, and for those of you who watch my channel for any given amount of time, you're definitely going to be geared at least in part towards the preparedness against the disease standpoint of this. Patriot nurse, right? But also, that's one of the reasons why I teach, guys, more than just the videos. I offer classes because there's so much that I want to go into with you that I just cannot do in this format. And one of the reasons why I teach Medical Prep 101, 201, and also 301, which is nutrition, herbs, and old school diseases, is that in order for you to be able to have not only the good assessment capability, but also the problem solving and anticipatory prepping capability, we have to cover all of these three things. War, famine, and disease, universally present throughout history, folks. So I hope that you're preparing for them and that you haven't been sitting back on your laurels, because it's typically when people think that everything is okay, that destruction just hits. We're like, oh, I didn't see it coming. It all happened so fast. Peace, peace, and then destruction. This stuff is very predictable, folks. So I hope that you're still preparing. And I just want to thank you guys for being my subscribers, and thanks for following me throughout this journey. For many a year, many a moon have I been doing this, and I still enjoy it. And recently I've gone over to Patreon, and I want to thank you guys who have been my supporters there on Patreon. I'll be doing my thank you video for my $50 a month subscribers. But my Idaho folks, Frederick Davis, thank you so much. And I'll continue making the videos and giving you guys a proper thank you. But just off the top of my head, I was just thinking about you guys. And then also with Luke, thank you, Luke, for the $50 a month. I appreciate you guys so much. And folks, for my people who are going over to Patreon, I want you to maybe consider something, okay? YouTube, with the way that they've been censoring people and the way that they've been very hit or miss in their application of community guidelines and whatever like nebulous form they currently exist in. It's possible that, God forbid, at some point I will not be able to reach out to you. But folks, if you're on my Patreon, if you're the $1 a month Patriot Buddy, like, you're going to have access to these videos, okay? And I also offer other tiers. For $5 a month, you get access to the newsletter at the end of the month that I make. And then I have some more tiers, of course, as well. But I just want to thank you guys so much for being an active part of my life. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk with you and to reach you guys. One of the things, before I make any video, guys, like, I pray and I ask the Lord, like, what would he have me share with you? And I know some people are not believers, but it's okay. Like, you're not being hurt by this. You're hopefully only being benefited by the information. But folks, I just really felt like that was on my heart to share with you guys today. And I hope it was helpful for you. If you did enjoy the channel, I hope you give me a thumbs up and also subscribe to me here on YouTube. And consider supporting me on Patreon if you do get value out of the videos. Even if it's just $1 a month, guys, it really does help. It really does help me. And more than anything, it helps to motivate me to know that you guys value these videos and this information enough to interact and engage online. And so thank you for that. I really appreciate it. Let me know in the comments section below. I want to hear your application of where war, famine, and disease have come up in your lifetime and where you've seen it. Hope it was helpful for you. Have a wonderful weekend. For now, it's Patriot Nurse signing off, and I'll see y'all later. Bye.